Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Roleplay Chat. I'm Matt, a game master who can't stop talking about role-playing games, and today I am eager and excited to be talking to you all about virtual tabletops. My guest today is a game master and actual play performer. He's a Roll20 ambassador and the force behind the TalkingXP live stream and podcast. It's filled with awesome actual plays and all kinds of how-tos. Please welcome me in joining Jonny. Jonny, welcome to Roleplay Chat.
Hi, I am super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jody. I've been following you along on Threads kind of since Threads existed, I think. So I'm really happy to finally connect and to talk to you about virtual tabletops today. In part because, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of virtual tabletops. So I'm really eager
Interesting.
to, for you to convince me, maybe sell
Yeah,
me
yeah,
on it a
yeah.
little bit. Um,
Okay.
But before we do that, I do want to give you the opportunity to let people know a little bit more about yourself, especially kind of in the context of, you're giving, we're both here giving advice. So to help contextualize that advice, I'd love to know more about your GMing style, your play style, the
Sure.
things you like in a game, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I've been GMing, mostly DMing, so for you know, D&D specifically 5e for over a decade now. And that's super crazy to say that,
Nice,
you know,
nice.
2014 when 5e came out and all the way up until now. So yeah, it's wild. Yeah, so I have a lot of DMing experience, and one of the things that I like to do with that is I like to do how-tos, especially with now more as I'm branching out into other TTRPGs, how to play other things. I've specifically focused on stuff that Darrington Press has released just because one, I'm a huge Critical Role fan, and two, I really like their stuff. Yeah, so I have a How to Play Candela series. I did a How to Play Daggerheart series on TikTok specifically. I'm still working on it. It's hard to get it's hard to justify a lot of work on Daggerheart because they're going to be changing it so much. But
Mm,
I have the basis of version 1.2. I'm going to do some update videos later, but that's kind of what I really like doing in this space is making it easy and more accessible for people to learn how to play something and then, get the context of it and then go and play it. So, another reason or another thing behind that is I played Dagger Hearts. Yeah,
cool, cool, cool.
yeah,
And so, as far as the things that you want to get out of a game when you're playing one, whether that be for a stream or for a personal game, what is, what's your fun when you're playing a game?
sure. Um, I really enjoy making high stakes and creating that like tension and that stress that you like. I like immersion a
Hmm.
lot. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like horror so much too, is because you can make that tension and that immersion so easily. Like I like the ambiance that I use Sirenscape for my Curse of Strahd campaign that I run, Ravenloft Misfits. Um, I have that, which is perfect for the sound. It's always playing in the background, and I have like certain cues that will pop up this certain area. It's really cool. I really like
Hmm.
super endorse Sirenscape. Check it out. It's awesome. But then I really like being able to write a story that I have certain obstacles, and I love to see how the players deal with those obstacles. And one thing that I've really noticed, and I really like about Candela is that you're always on your toes when something happens. So you can either fully succeed, you can succeed with a cost, or you can fail.
Hmm.
And when those things happen, that's where the GM gets to pull like this is a new obstacle in your way. How are you going to get around that? I really really enjoy the combat or at least like really tense situations in Candela because it's very quick, very like theatrical. This is what I'm doing on my turn. Do I pass? No. Cool. This is what happens. Now you have to face that
Yeah.
obstacle. What are you gonna
Sounds
do with that?
fluid. Very, very fluid.
It's really cool. I have a
Nice.
really good example of that on my YouTube page. It's actually we actually wrote me and Margot Mods Games on Threads. We actually wrote a one-shot adventure for Candela. It's called The Bleeding Edge, but
Cool.
on YouTube it's called The Eternal One. It's a continuation of a story that goes throughout the Candela book about Ezra Ashford, the one that like owns the book like it's their journal kind of thing. It's really cool. If you know anything about that, I also have like a series about the whole story on my TikTok, but
Sweet. Yeah. Sounds
the
like
very
a good
ending of
time.
it was just perfect. It was so good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it sounds to me then that you have to try playing 10 Candles soon. Um,
I have the book. It's
you
right there. I
gotta,
can see it. I just
yeah,
haven't done it yet. Yeah.
yeah. It's
I need to.
atmosphere, narrative. It's super snappy. Um, but you
Yeah.
see, that to me is a fantastic game that has to be played in person because the ambiance of the game, the tea lights, the candles lit on the table can't be emulated through a virtual medium. And that's my segue. I hope you like it into virtual tabletops because I feel like while there's a lot of benefits to virtual tabletops, there are certain elements of them that just can't quite match up with playing in person. And so I think,
I understand that. I get that.
yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think,
Okay.
Johnny, maybe the first thing I want to throw over to you is outside of the obvious reasons why someone might play on a virtual tabletop because of like long distance games or to be able to like do some kind of streaming or whatnot. What do you think the strengths of a virtual tabletop are? The things that it really knocks out of the park, um, so to say.
Um, the ability to have maps virtually placed on like in front of you, as well as cheap tokens because they're free.
Mm,
Um, I I've been playing on virtual tabletops ever since I got my like career job. So I have money, but I'm not going to spend it on minis, and I haven't really bought into that
hmm
just yet because I don't have an in person group. Um, Scratch that. I do have an in person group, but we just use like random Pokemon toys as our minis, like, and that's totally fine.
That's
Like
all you need, to
we're
be
all good,
honest.
right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a ongoing thing because back when I was in college, when I didn't have money, that's what we used for our in-person game, and it was great.
Yeah, we use Crazy Bones. Did you ever play with Crazy Bones as a kid?
Crazy Bones.
They're like these little plastic figurines that you're like supposed to line up and like make them knock into each other.
Yes, I
Um,
remember these.
yeah, so
I
I found
love
some in my
that.
basement one time and I'm like, this is exactly what you know, like a bag of these like random colorful things that are
You're
kind of
good.
nondescript. You're good. That's all you need.
Yeah,
Um,
that
but
is
I take your
so
point.
good.
Having a map like out in the open that you can put tokens on for basically nothing. Like
Right,
that's
right.
yeah.
And in my closet behind me, I have for one of my birthdays, my friend had gotten a really cheap TV, put a wood box around it, and then a plexiglass screen on top of it. And then all you have to do is just plug in an HDMI cable, plug it into a laptop, which you don't need a PC. You just
hmm
plug it into
hmm
your laptop and then boom, there's the map on the screen right there, and everybody just places their minis on top of that. So that's one reason. Even if you're doing it in person, VTT can still elevate that game.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Um,
really good point. And there's so many
so
good maps. Like there's so many map makers out there. You know,
yes.
like we can have a segment later where we just plug map makers, but there's so many good like digital map makers.
And I love making my own maps too. Like I
Mhm.
use Incarnate and I used Dungeon shoot, what is it?
That random one, the
Um
what that Dungeon
no, not
Alchemist? No,
alchemy,
something.
not alchemy. Or alchemy? I don't know. Um Dungeon builder, dungeon something. It's simple, but it's like some I bet if I were to search it on my
It's
computer
fine.
I'd find it. Dungeon Draft. There it
Dungeon
is.
Draft. Yes, yes, yes. There you go.
Um, that one's very simple, but I really like to make complex, good-looking maps, and I do that. I feel like I do that pretty well with Incarnate. Anyways, now I get a place where I can, show it off instead of, drawing a map on the backside of gift wrap that has 1-inch
Hmm.
grids because, you know, just like crazy, but like that's what I started with, and then I started watching Critical Role like the first season or the first campaign, and that's what they were doing, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so great." It's just like
Hmm.
that's just a agreed upon thing upon all D&D tables. It's just like, yeah, gift wrap with a 1-inch on the back. Yeah, that's good.
All you need. Yeah, yeah. For a
Yeah.
while, I had a whiteboard that had dots. Like they were like,
Yep.
it wasn't super clear though. That was the issue. Was there were little dots that marked. I think they were a 2-inch grid. But then you run to the problem where when a player goes over and their elbow smudges like half the map, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
just spent an hour ahead of this to like color code it so that it's accurate. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some problems there for sure.
Pain.
I mean, there's also a lot of really neat automation in VTTs.
That was
Um,
going to be my next thing is the math is done for you.
yeah.
Again, this can be done in person if you have like because Roll20, which is what I mainly use, like you said, I'm a Roll20 ambassador. Roll20 has an app that they're still working on, still trying to improve that goes with D&D right now. They're working on getting other stuff, and but you also have like Demiplane that can do its own thing as well. But specifically to Roll20, you have your character sheet made on Roll20. You can level it
Mhm.
up, which is another good part about that automation thing. It takes you step by step. You make the character, all of that. And then when you have it on your phone, you can press a button and boom, it rolls. Now, that being said, I feel like that's the weakest argument only because I like rolling dice instead of pressing buttons.
Yeah. It's
100% I will take dice over like anything any day for sure. But it's one thing.
yeah, yeah, no, I hear you. I feel like in some contexts the automation gets in the way of the fun, right? Like you want to just roll the clickety clacks and see what happens.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean most of the games when I play virtually, yeah, I'm the one rolling beside my computer mouse, and when I get a crit I move my webcam to show everybody, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Look at. Yeah. Okay, but that does bring up a good point too. For the DM, I know when I'm running something and it's like I'm looking at one of my rolls on my Misfits game, 5d8. I am not going to go searching for 5d8. I'm going to do roll 5d8 on roll 20 and then it's done. 31 damage. Cool.
Yeah.
So it those in those cases, automation is great, especially for a DM that has like a bunch of monsters that are on the field. You can roll 4d20 at once. Like that's great. Um
Yeah. And like
yeah, I
simple
mean,
little things too, like tracking initiative or turn order. I know especially in games that are a little more tactical like D&D or Pathfinder, these things are important to like not
mhm,
forget, right? Whereas if you're playing something where I don't know, you're playing something like Fate Core, where yes, it's still there's still a level of tactics involved with the powers that you have, but it's not really grid-based combat. The same goes for like Call of Cthulhu. You're not really playing when you're
right.
fighting something. It's not on a grid really. Um,
Very much theater of the mind when it comes to that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or like certain systems just kind of go away with the location that you're fighting in and just have like short range versus long range weapons, and like anybody that's engaged with you is close range and everybody that's not is long range, and then that's it.
Right.
Like you just kind of hand wave everything else. And that kind of leads me to wonder, Johnny, in your experience playing with virtual tabletops, are there certain systems that you feel like are almost like meant to be like a pairing that's matched that matches well with the tabletop, like D&D I think is a good example.
D&D for sure.
Yeah.
100% D&D is like a huge thing. And one of the reasons why I really like VTTs as well is because you can only keep so many notes on your character sheet on paper.
Totally, yeah.
If you're playing like a wizard that's learning spells left and right, or even a cleric that gets all of the spells, but you have to prepare them, you're screwed because you can only write the name and then you have to look it up on your phone. Like, regardless of what you're doing, you're always going to need access to that kind of information.
Hmm.
And I like Roll20 because you have a character sheet and everything is on it. Now, one caveat to that is that Roll20 chugs. It
That's
takes
true.
so long to load sometimes. They are working on it. I saw that they're doing a beta on reducing everything by like 100 times faster.
Great.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be way better. And like they did this demo where they had like 1,000 tokens that were graphic and moving, and it was totally fine. They were just moving around the map, which that would
Sweet.
just kill any type of map or
Yeah.
anything on Roll20 now. Um, so better things to come. Um, so I think with that, I think if they get it right, that's gonna make Roll20 way better. They've already been working on a whole bunch of stuff too, like with dark mode and map folders, which is another thing, is having all of your maps as a DM all in one place and being able to switch instantaneously. Super
Yeah.
nice.
It reminds me of a story one time. My players, or I wasn't game mastering this game. I was a player with my like regular circle of people that play. And at one point, we start talking about, oh, we're gonna go to the brewery. We're gonna go to the brewery in town, and we're gonna like poison the batch that's being made so that we like ruin this like Baron's party or whatever. I forget exactly the context, but and then the game master pulls up a brewery map like out of nowhere, and we're like, man, like I can't believe you had this ready. And then after the game, he was like, I didn't have that ready. I just I just went
Copy
and
paste.
found a map, copy paste, and pasted it in. And like
Yep.
you can't copy paste onto a whiteboard or the back of a the
Right.
back of wrapping paper. You can draw it
Right.
out by pen or whatever, but it kind of loses that illusion a little bit that the person just was prepared out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. Which is another thing too. I really like to have my notes all in one spot too. So like if you're DMing at home, you don't have a virtual tabletop, you're using OneNote, you're using what are the other ones? Google Docs. There's this other one that I saw. Somebody recommended it and it's like supposed to be Obsidian. Obsidian is another one.
Mm,
I still haven't tried it out, but anyways, but I like to have all of my notes in one spot, which is why I like Roll20 because then I can not only put it in one spot, but I can connect handouts and I can click a button and boom, this handout pops up. And who is this NPC? Cool. I can just double click on their token and now here's all the information I need. It keeps everything a lot more organized too. I think what I'm trying to say is basically it's not an either or situation. You don't need to be in person only or VTT only. Well, sometimes. Sometimes you have to be VTT only just because of being around the world literally.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I used Roll20 when I was DMing in person because that's where I kept my notes. All of my maps were there. I had the TV thing that I could set up, and it just made everything easier because all of the characters were there. I could check, everybody's AC, what health they would be at, all of that. I don't think it's an either or thing. I think that you could just
yeah. That's a
use
really
all
good
of the
point.
tools in front of you to make your DMing and your just game in general better and easier, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good point. It in most of the cases of all of the like famous TTRPG arguments, uh, it's never a matter of one or the other. I think, like you're saying, why not have both? If you have the ability to do so, and you have the tools at your disposal, why not take advantage of them? Um,
Right.
it's a really really good point. I do though still have my own personal reservations with using tabletop tools like this, and in part I find them to be sometimes a little bit cumbersome. As far as
Yeah.
like trying to figure it out, the learning curve isn't
Yep.
great. Onboarding a new player with with Roll20, forget about it. Like I know they do the best they can, but
Right.
like nothing quite beats ordering, Chinese food, printing
Yep.
out character sheets, and then just having a little like character creation party where with pen and paper you're all writing it down and you don't have to worry about
Mhm.
like, oh, what was the command to do this again? And
Yeah.
maybe it's like my age and my bad knee, is making me say that. But
Yeah. I mean,
um
the only thing that I'll pose is that you can get together on a session 0, make all of the characters on Roll20, and if somebody's not feeling well, they can't make it, you can just do it online. You don't have to skip the week. I
yeah,
mean, that's one of
yeah,
the worst things as a DM is that everybody canceled. Damn. Nobody can come over.
yeah, that's a
But
really
that
good
goes
point.
into the caveat thing that you were talking about where if you can't actually make it in person, then obviously VTT is the way to go. But
I mean,
yeah.
it's really the only way, I think. I mean, I suppose you could play like through a Discord call or something, but then
Sure.
you're kind of forcing yourself to play theater of the mind exclusively throughout the whole game, which
Yeah, unless you take screenshots every 2 seconds, which is just cumbersome, like you were saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I suppose it depends on the system too, though. Like, I think it always
Sure.
falls back to what you're playing. Um, I'm playing in a game right now with Jason Shadowmane and Gamer Mom Luna, and we're playing like we're playing virtually, but without a tabletop, and it's it's
Mhm.
it's running really smoothly because we're playing Blades in the Dark. We're playing a game that like doesn't require and actually actively tells the game master not to prepare anything, not to
Right.
have maps because maps pigeonhole you in the game, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think Johnny, I want to get back to like some of the strengths and weaknesses and actually
Mhm.
talk a little bit about the kinds of play style that VTTs like kind of encourage us to play if we're using them. But before we do that, we're going to take a little break. We're going to talk about Bug Dish. So we're going to have our indie spotlight, a really cool little cooking TTRPG about bugs, cooking food by Ryan Kahn. So you're going to hear Ryan in a second. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Bug Dish, and then, we'll get back to the show.
Hello, everyone. I am the one true Ryan Kahn, and Matt has so graciously invited me on to talk about my game, Bug Dish, a game where you play as bugs who are chefs and you travel the world in your mobile kitchen, your food truck, to compete in culinary competitions. At its core, Bug Dish is really about the romance of food, the romance of cooking, how we connect with other people and can connect with places through food. Playing as bugs kind of recontextualizes the world. All of a sudden, these familiar places, familiar things become suddenly very big and changes in scale. I also love the fact that by playing as bugs, and not just bugs, but anthropomorphized bugs, it takes the pressure off of knowing about real cuisine. As much as I love real cuisine, there's this extra element of creativity that can come in because you can just make stuff up. And I really wanted to lean into that collaborative nature through the mechanics as well. So, Bug Dish uses a push your luck mechanic where you're trying to roll a total that lands within the sweet spot. And that sweet spot is determined by the number of players at the table. And it is unlikely or sometimes impossible to hit that within a single roll. So instead of any particular task being up to just one player, you're passing the roll back and forth. So in the kitchen, you might be waiting for an ingredient, and then the camera is going to shift focus over to that other player, the other chef, who's taking care on this other part of the recipe. And as you roll back and forth, you get yourself closer and closer to the sweet spot in hopes of landing at the maximum total for a miracle of a dish. I've found myself really interested in games recently that don't rely on violence as a way to solve problems. So I think the idea of making food, which is an act that you do for other people or for yourself to just enjoy a moment, removes violence from the picture. It suddenly becomes something entirely different. And that's a space that I'm really interested in exploring. It offers a different set of problems or different kinds of problems to address and a totally different toolkit to address those problems. So the kind of collaboration that happens at the table tends to take a different form. The conversations are different, different in tone, different in nature, and just inherently about trying to make other people happy. The game itself is a lightweight affair. The mechanics are pretty easy to grok, I would say, and it's designed for short campaigns in this kind of 4 to 6 session window. I think it's worth checking out because it offers up a different take on the world, especially playing as bugs and being able to get really wild and creative with your meals. But it's also this very inviting setting. I've been lucky enough to play this game with people who are brand new to gaming, with people who are veteran gamers, with children at the table. And every time I play, the meals that people come up with are just so evocative and exciting and honestly just sometimes ridiculous, which is half the fun. So it's a really approachable game and it's low stakes. If you fail, you've made a bad dish and you've probably upset the judges and maybe, your rivals are excited that they got one over on you. Right now, the version of Bug Dish that's available is called the Amuse Bouche edition, which is something to, well, whet your appetite. It is an ash can version or a one-shot adventure, which introduces all the core mechanics and really gives you a feel for what the game is. The full game is coming out this summer, and that will contain full character creation rules, rules for creating your kitchen, growing your rivalries, and tracking your reputation over time and in different places. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can find it on my itch page, which is rcon.itch.io/bugdish. That's rkhan.itch.io/bugdish. Once again, Matt, thank you so much for inviting me on. I really appreciate the chance to talk about this thing that I've had in the back of my head for too long, really, and I'm just excited to get it out there and to get it into people's hands.
Thanks so much, Ryan. The pleasure has been all mine. It was really fun meeting you in Toronto, and it was really fun getting a chance to look at Bug Dish. So for those of you listening, I read through Bug Dish a couple of times, and I've jotted down my thoughts. So kind of this is the review portion of the indie showcase. And I think, Bug Dish has a lot of really cool things that has on offer. So for me, some of the strengths of Bug Dish really revolve around how Ryan mechanicized or systematized this feeling of being in a cooking show, if that makes any kind of sense. The push your luck mechanic feels really, really good. It feels like you're there, you're prepping a meal for somebody that you care about, and there's this tension of, ooh, do I add a little bit more? Do I add a little bit more? And as you push and push, it really emulates not truly knowing whether or not your dish hits the mark until it's the very last minute and you bring it out of the oven, or you just finish it and you plate it out. So I really, really like that. As far as a place where I think there might be room for improvement is the ingredients portion of the game. So there's these ingredients that each of your character starts off with, and you kind of trade throughout the game, or give away to NPCs, etc. And these ingredients offer a really cool degree of customization to the game. It allows you to make food taste certain ways based on the ingredients that you're adding to the dish. Now, admittedly, though, their impact on play feels a lot more narrative than mechanical, which can be a really good thing if that's what you're looking for in a game. It can be good or bad, basically based on your preferences, is what I'm trying to say. But for me personally, I would have liked to see them interplay maybe a little bit more in the advantage mechanic of the game, or perhaps even in the combination. There's a kind of a combination mechanic. It would have been neat to see favorable combinations or unfavorable combinations based on the ingredients and their attributes. But anyway, I think it's a really cool game. And to go back to some of the positives, The current version of the game, the amuse-bush version of the game, is really, really well laid out. It's kind of in this play-as-you-go format, so you can just read through it and already be ready to run the adventure. It's short and sweet and has everything you need to run a 1 to 2 shot session with your gaming group with basically no preparation at all outside of reading through the short book. So Ryan really includes everything you need. There's even a handy session structure incorporated into the adventure that basically allows you to keep pace, so that you really hit that high note at the end, that climax when you're reaching the final judgment of your dish. So all in all, Bug Dish is a really unique and straightforward tabletop role-playing game, and just talking about it I can't help but think of some of my favorite cooking shows, things like MasterChef, Family Cooking Showdown, or even some of the food anime recently, like the new one in Netflix, The Delicious in Dungeon. So if you like any of those shows and are here listening to me talk about role-playing games in a podcast form, then Bug Dish is 100% for you. I definitely have no reservations recommending it to folks who are into that kind of scene. And even if you're not super into cooking shows, Bug Dish is a super unique and super interesting way of playing role-playing games. Rolling dice, and like Ryan so eloquently said, in a capacity where you do these challenges that aren't combat focused, aren't fighting your enemy, but rather cooking for them. So this is definitely something that I think people should go check out. Thanks again, Ryan. It's a really, really awesome game. I can't wait to see the final version, kind of seeing the full character creation that you talked about, as well as the expanded rules to grow the kitchen and reputation. So anyway, hope folks check out Bug Dish. There's going to be a link in the show notes for today's episode to go buy it on Ryan's itch page. So yeah, that's Bug Dish. And now back to the interview with Jonny to talk about virtual tabletops. And we're back. Thanks for that, Ryan, and I hope y'all go check out Bug Dish. It's a pretty cool, cute little game. Met Ryan in Toronto a couple months ago at Breakout Con. Ryan's a really cool person. So anyway, back to us, Jonny. Me and you talking about VTTs. You convincing me that they're really not that bad after all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted to ask you, in your experience using VTTs, are there certain parts of the game, certain elements of play that really benefit from having the virtual tabletop out and open, whether that be in person with the TV or you're playing online, you're playing through Discord, and then for this part of the game, we're gonna pull out the VTT. What is that part of the game in your experience?
So it's definitely combat. Having a map in front of you, and that's honestly, I mean, to be completely honest, that's the only thing that I would use a VTT for, is for like a map or like a graphic to show maybe like a hierarchy of something, like some information that they might need to know, and like kind of draw it out.
I see. Yeah,
But outside
yeah.
of that, it's really just combat and maps that you would have for like, I will always go back to D&D and like Pathfinder, because those are like the crunchiest when it comes to like combat and like making sure that your spell that does X amount of damage in a X amount of range cone, like you need
That's
to be
it.
able to
Yeah.
measure that, and right. Um and that is also another good point. I didn't even think of that. But Roll20 has like all those measuring tools where you could just click and then boom, you can do your
Oh, that's
circle,
cool.
your
Yeah.
sphere, your cone, whatever. That's another thing. And then you can also just like leave it. So if there's a moving or not a moving, a lingering effect or something like that, it'll just stay there.
You mean you
As
don't
well as
pull
the
out
fact,
like the Warhammer template, like
right.
plastic thing? You know what
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a really good point.
There's
That's a really good point.
there's also, so when you have like dynamic lighting for Roll20, which is like a pro thing, but
Yeah.
dynamic lighting is pretty cool because then you don't have to be the one that is like shifting paper to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
you can only see one, and then like you accidentally move and say, hey, forget you saw that. Like Roll20 does a pretty good job at there. You can have doors that your players, if it's unlocked, they could click and open it. If it's locked, then they can't. You can like create walls, and all their vision can see is whatever's in front of them, and like the angles that they have to have. So that's another cool thing, as well as the fact that just regular fog of war, which is what I use, it's better for like streams and stuff like that. And honestly, I think I I think I like that kind of fog of war a little bit better, only because I take advantage of GM layer, which is another reason why I like
Hmm.
TTR or VTTs, is because you could set everything up months before, have all the tokens exactly where they need to be, all of your descriptions ready to go, all in one spot. And then once they get into that place, a trap happens. Boom, you have like some effect happen, or you can have like there's a surprise attack. Okay, cool. All of these tokens are now visible and you
Yeah.
can use them. So it's it's
Do you,
really for like maps and stuff though.
yeah.
That's
Do you
what I
find
mainly use it
like
for.
as far as prep work goes, like preparing that map still takes time. Like you have to be fiddling around to like place the tokens and stuff. How do you find that math works out for you as far as like if you were to sit down and fully prepare a map with the fog of war and have all the tokens hidden in your GM layer and descriptions and whatnot, compared to doing that without the VTT, pen and paper with the whatever tools you're using. How does that balance out, if at all, in your
So
experience?
there's there's a few avenues that you can take. One is you purchase the module on Roll20 and all of the maps are ready to go. All of the tokens are already there. All of
Mm,
the GM layer stuff is already ready to go. The dynamic lighting is already set. Everything is all good, especially with the handouts that are all linked and everything is in one package ready to go. You don't have to do anything.
that's pretty
That's
cool. I
really
didn't know that.
awesome.
Yeah,
Super cool. So they have it for I bought it for Curse of Strahd, and then I did a bunch of my own stuff with it instead of just like following, because my Ravenloft Misfits, the Curse of Strahd campaign that I'm running is up to level 15. They're at 13 right now. So it's getting to the very end, and I'm super
yeah.
excited for the end. It's gonna be so good. But anyways, it's all in one package. So Curse of Strahd, Descent into Avernus, pretty much anything D&D related is already on Roll20 ready to go. You just purchase whatever the price is and boom, you have it all there. Which there's another thing to be said about having to purchase things twice, but I buy it for the convenience because of that reason of all of the time that you have to spend in order to do it. I know that
Yeah.
people don't always have that luxury. It's still possible to do without all of that, and you can prep as you go too. I once drew the entire map of Wave Echo Cave for Fandelver, Phandalin, the what is it? Mines of Fandelver.
Mine
That's
of
it.
Fandelver, yeah.
I once drew that
Whew.
entire map on the back of gift wrap, and the funniest thing too, my wife, I love her so much. She spilt a full ass cup of, I think it was water or something like that on it. And I kid you not, it was like not even a minute that the map was out. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, just
it was hilarious.
bleeding all over the place and yeah.
It was so like, so there's another reason why you might want to put it on VGT, because you can't do that. Um but that being drawing that map, I could have had that, like what you're saying with your friend. I can easily go to Google, find Wave Echo Cave, pull that, put it on a map, and boom, it's there. You know, you
Yeah.
might have to do some resizing just to make sure that it's all copacetic with like moving throughout the cave, but that'll take maybe like at most 5 minutes. At most. Usually it's just a minute. So
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize that you could buy a lot of that stuff. Um,
yeah,
that's
that's
really
huge.
cool. And if
Yeah,
you're in, if you have the means to do so, or if your table, like I know a lot of people when they, your gaming group, everybody throw $5 at the wall.
right.
Let's buy the next module together. Like we're playing this together, and then if you're a group of 5 people, that's $25. I mean, I'm inventing this number, but I imagine that's probably what it costs.
I'm
Maybe
looking it up right now.
close to that. Um,
Yeah, 25. Not even that
there
bad.
you go. Yeah,
And if you have 5 people, that's $5 each, and that's like the typical party size is 4 players, 1 DM.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. So yeah, that's really not so bad.
yeah, and
Cool,
you're
cool, cool.
saving so much time. You don't have to put the tokens on. Everything is already set. All the handouts are linked. It's super nice. I really like the Curse of Strahd one. Yeah.
Yeah. You're selling me a little bit on this, Johnny. You're selling me a little bit.
Cool. There we go.
I
There
will
we go.
say.
Okay.
Um,
Moving
I
you to
mean,
the dark side.
yeah. I will say though, like to a different on a different spectrum, I'm very much the kind of person who loves. I love painting my minis, even if I'm bad at it. Got the hot wire cutter. I like making terrain. It's a lot of fun. It's a pain sometimes because like you make this thing and you use it for 4 hours and then it's gone forever. There's ways
Yeah.
to make it a little bit more modular, but the saving my personal time is definitely a big selling point. Um,
Right.
do you ever feel like you're missing out on like the tactile elements of the game because there is kind of a pleasure sometimes in sitting there at the table, rolling the physical dice, moving whether they be crazy bones or Pokemon figures or whatever.
Right.
There's something kind of nice about that tactile element. How does that?
100%.
Yeah.
I think one of the one of the main things, believe it or not, is not so much with the tactile part of, moving minis and stuff like that, because like I said, I never really got into like the whole I made maps, yeah, but I never did like terrain or, painting minis or anything like that. I
Mhm.
literally, again, I was in college, had no money. I used pennies and super glued, those paper
Oh
clips that
yeah,
like so
I
the
did
ones
something
that
like
like
this,
have the
and
and
you
then you
print out
stick
a
the
little
paper
paper.
and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then you take a packing tape and then you put it on both sides so that it's like the lamination kind of thing so that it doesn't So I had an entire set of all of those kind of things, right? And that was cool. Like I don't think I'm missing too much in that sense. It's so stupid, but it's such a small thing, but it's so big when it comes um into effect where it's if I'm talking to one person and then somebody else says something and then I'm still talking to that first person and I say you or something like that, the second person might think that I'm talking to them because I'm looking directly at a camera. I'm not looking at
Yeah.
them. That is one big thing, especially for like, the stream that I'm doing and all of that stuff that I really wish because I don't want to have to be like, hey, X person, hey, I'm talking to you. Like, I don't want to have to do that because
Yeah.
it ruins the immersion. Yeah, that's one small thing that turns into a big thing when it comes into play. And
Yeah.
I wish there was a way to fix it, but it's kind of the way it is with VTTs.
Yeah. I always wondered, like that's definitely that dynamic of playing virtually. I think is a weakness, regardless of the VTT. Like in my opinion,
Right.
it's just like a limitation on being
Hmm.
remote. And
Yeah.
yeah, like even role playing in that capacity, I find it so much harder. You're not
Hmm.
getting the same body language. You're not getting the same cues. Like, yeah, we're on camera, but we're all sitting down in front of our computer. You can only see like my neck upward. So it's not the same as if we were sitting around a table, maybe standing up to act out a scene. Um, One thing I
Yeah.
will say, and I don't know if any of the VTTs are doing this yet, but I would love for them to do positional audio. this is something that exists in other mediums where, like, if two tokens are beside each other, the audio is louder than if they are further apart from each other. And
Interesting.
a VTT has the tokens already on the map. So, like, it shouldn't be too hard, I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to code, but like, it couldn't possibly be that hard to scale the like audio levels
Sure, depending on how far
depending on
you
how
are
far
from.
your token is. You know, like I think
That's pretty cool.
that'd be cool.
I think you'd have to assign yourself as a token, and it would kind of get a
Yeah,
little wily if you have like a creature that you're controlling too.
I
Hmm.
suppose. Yeah, yeah.
And
Maybe
then
have
what
like
happens
a
with the
god
DM? Maybe
mode.
they're just like, yeah, yeah, the god mode for the DM.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That would be cool. I think that's a really cool idea, and I think that would definitely help. It would definitely. Oh man.
And it like it could
Hmm.
work for players too, right? Like you could have if two players want to have a little scene that nobody else hears, they just like run off to the corner of the dungeon
Right.
when nobody else
Right.
is. They talk about it and then they come back to the rest of the party. I mean, I don't know.
That's a really cool idea, and I think the way to do that would be to have, like, an override, because it's just like any other video game, like, oh, shoot, what was the one that, like, had that kind of proximity chat and you, like, went into a weird factory pulling out stuff? I can't remember what it was called. It, like, took over TikTok
Mm,
for a while. Um,
like Factorio or something or no?
no, no, shoot, what was it called? Uh I don't remember what it is, and I'm not gonna find it. But it it was like this game where you run into a factory, you have like 3 different ways to go. You run and there's like monsters in the factory, and
Mm,
it's really silly. Like one of them is a monster with like a spring head that like really just terrifying. And then another one that is like a little bug guy. Anyways,
anyway, yeah.
it had proximity chat, and then you also had like a walkie-talkie as well, which you could use in the game, or you could just hop on Discord and you're good to go. So like if you died, you can't talk to the people that are alive. You go back into the Discord, talk to everybody else.
Hmm.
So there should be like some override where, oh, okay, cool. We're gonna go into the game. We're in character right now. Okay, out of character, we're gonna come out and we're gonna talk about it. So like you're in a
Yeah,
Discord muted and then unmute yourself whenever. Yeah. I think it's a
something
really
like
cool
that.
idea though.
It'd be neat. It'd be neat.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more question for you, Johnny, before we go into the Patreon exclusive chat in the secret club that we have, or I mean, not so secret club,
Ooh.
but I'd love to know a little bit about like tools or even just features that you think not enough people know about in roll
Yeah.
20. Like I'm sure there's all kinds of cool stuff that like 85 to 90% of the people that use it don't even know it exists. So I'd love to pick your brain on some of those things.
Yeah, I actually have an entire series on my TikTok of just, let's see, how many parts do I
Cool.
have?
Sweet.
Uh, I have 37 different videos that
There
I
you
talk
go.
about different things. One of the main things is linking handouts. It is super awesome. All you have to do is you have a handout, you make another handout, and if you want to link the two, whatever the title is of handout 1, you put the bracket. So right next to P, and then the one right next to that, like those square brackets, not the other ones. If you do the square bracket on one side of the title and then the other one, and then you save that handout, it automatically creates a hyperlink that goes directly to that handout and then automatically opens it up when you press it.
That's cool.
That's super cool when it comes to, like
Nice.
an entire city and they're going to a certain district. Okay,
Yeah.
what does the district have? Cool. It has this tavern, it has this apothecary, it has this whatever else. Um, and then you can easily bring up that handout. And then that handout has what kind of NPCs? Oh, this person. Okay, they're going to the bar. This is the bartender. Boom. Pull it up. This is the NPC character sheet that you have with all of the information about them. And then that's super easy to then, close. You go back to that handout that is
Yeah.
already open. That is one thing that, like, when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I didn't know that. Another thing related to handouts is if you double click at the very top of the handout, it minimizes it so that your screen is a lot easier to like handle. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot more real estate. Um,
Does it like
and
it makes it disappear, or does it make it like a little tab or something?
it makes it a little tab, and it
That's cool.
also
Yeah.
becomes like I would say maybe like 50% transparent too. They put down the opacity so that you could still see through it,
Okay.
but you could
That's
also
cool.
see that little tab as well. Which is huge for Roll20
Mhm.
because sometimes you're struggling with the real estate that you have on your computer. I remember I was playing on a laptop with one screen and I was trying to DM and it was just don't do that.
Yeah, it's
It
a lot.
was so hard. But that's one other thing. And then I know there are these like when you first open up Roll20 like a new game, there are some settings that you always want to do. If you're not going to use video on Roll20, which I never do, and I don't think anybody ever does because Discord exists.
Mhm.
If you go to the settings and then you go into the audio video, there's a video display setting, and then the player video avatar size. You want to click that to names only. Usually it has like your name under your avatar, whatever your profile picture is, which I think they should just get rid of. But names only takes away that avatar and it's just names only down at the bottom so that you can easily see
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
see
yeah,
the
yeah.
screen. Um God, there's so many. Let's see.
Well,
For
I
your
think I think
attacks
this
on
is
your character sheet. Oh yeah.
I was gonna say this is I think this is good. I think this gives people a good sense of some of them, and if they want to know the rest of them, they'll have to go watch your TikTok videos.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, by the way, we'll have all of Johnny's links in the show notes for the podcast, and on YouTube we'll have them in the gobbledygook or whatever it's called. Um,
Yeah, that
so
thing.
so so yeah, so it'll be there for you to go find. Um, so sweet Johnny, I think with that we're gonna go on just past the golden stanchions into the VIP Patreon room, and from
Ooh.
there we're gonna chit chat a little bit. So for the rest of you who aren't on the Patreon, the show is almost at its end. Um, one thing I forgot to do though, Johnny, I said that we would like shout out a bunch of cool map makers, and I think we definitely should, especially in the context of VTTs, being able to go and support other content creators who make awesome maps, and then plug those maps into our virtual tabletops to use at our disposal. I think is something that we owe it to the community a little bit, and like there's so many good maps, like there's so many
God,
good
there's
maps.
so many.
So I'm gonna name drop a few, and then I'll pass it over to you. The first person I want to make sure people are aware of is Domil's wonderful works. Domil does really, really great maps. Uh, her maps are phased, so you can buy like a bridge map, and then the bridge like will crumble, and there's like 5 different maps of the bridge crumbling, or
That's cool.
there'll be like the ritual of the cultists. Well, it starts off with them all chanting and the fire is small, but as you progress the fire gets bigger and then the monster comes out or whatever. So definitely go check out Demil. I'll have a link in the show notes, but there's some really cool phased battle maps there that you should definitely check out. One other one that I'm going to talk about is Tom Kartos. Tom
Tom
is
Cardos.
so
Yep.
cool. His maps are A plus. I had the
So
chance to
good.
talk to him not too long ago as part of the Rising Tide Discord community, and he had some really solid advice for people trying to like build up themselves as a content creator. And anyway, long story short, his maps are fantastic, and there's so many of them that are free. Like you can go find free Tom Kartos maps. Um, I think there's like 50 of them. It's like a pack of 50 of them. That's going to last you a long time. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you should go and support Tom. He's got a really cool booklet that you can buy that like merges the two worlds of VTT and physical reality, where it's like this booklet that you can like open up, and it's a battle map. And then like you
That's
flip
cool.
through it, and there's different things that you can go through,
That's super
scenarios.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. How about yourself, Johnny? What kind of folks do you know in the map making space that you want to shout out?
Yeah, the Critical Role map maker, Devin Rue. It's they're on Threads. Devin is spelled Deven and then underscore Rue
Mm,
Rue. Beautiful maps. Like so nice. I mean, I'm on their page right now just taking a look at everything, and they're just so good. There's like a wide variety of how they make maps with color and how they make their mountains. Are they making it more Lord of the Rings style, or are they
yeah.
making it, a little bit more like Fey Wild, where it's a little bit more like uh weird, chaotic type of landscape, stuff like that. Um, really great maps, and they do giveaways every once in a while to make maps for folks. So definitely check out them.
Nice.
Um, there is another map maker that I'm trying to get the info of right now. They made the maps for Margot Mod's the adventure that they're making for Kickstarter. It's called
Mm,
Murders at Lorlock Manor. We actually ran the first one shot of that last night. Um, and I know they put the information in the chat, so I'm gonna see if I can find it right now. Uh,
cool. Yeah.
but
While you're looking, I'll plug one other person. Mappy from Maps and Quest who was on the show not too long. I mean, probably long ago now. It's been maybe a year. But Mappy makes all kinds of really, really cool maps. His specialty is like these really big maps. Like we're talking scales that go like out of the range of a longbow in D&D, and he does it intentionally so that you have to think about where you're putting your character if you are a character with a longbow, because otherwise you're just going to hit everything. But in this
yeah,
context, you're going to put yourself in danger to try to get the target at the back or whatever. Yeah. So anyway, not sure if you had a chance to find that person, Johnny. No, still looking. That's fine. There's so many awesome virtual tabletop map makers out there. Um, I think we barely scratched the tip of the iceberg, I think, with just naming off some of these folks. Yeah, yeah. So I'll do my best to remember to link all these folks up in the show notes. For those of you listening, I think yeah, definitely worth checking out all these awesome map makers, especially if you're dipping your toes into the virtual tabletop world. And speaking of that, why don't I pass the microphone back over to you, Johnny, just to kind of say any kind of other thoughts or closing remarks that you have with regards to virtual tabletops. And then please also, after you're done saying that, why don't you remind us where people can find you, listen to your show, listen to Talking EXP, whatever projects you've got going on. The floor is yours.
if you're against VTTs, I get it. But the thing is that VTTs don't. It doesn't need to be a either or situation. VTTs can definitely upgrade your game if you use it the right way, using maps, for an example, on a TV that might be like an old TV that you just place in the middle of the table, or even a place to keep your notes and your players' character sheets where they can then go online at any point outside of the session, level them up, and then have all the information on their phone, whatever that looks like. And then of course, if everybody can't make it, then you already have everything there. Um it's very helpful for prepping because everything you could just buy something $25 for Curse of Strahd and it's all there. As well as there's also Foundry that I've heard a lot of good things about. It's not an either or. You can use VTTs in a way that benefits you. If you don't like rolling on a VTT, don't do it. Just roll in person and that's totally fine. If you want to draw your maps, awesome. Do that. That's fine. And I think that that's one of the biggest things though for VTTs is just maps. and then note taking. So use it for whatever you would like. It's a tool. It's out there. It's free. Just just use it.
Yeah. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of really cool ones. I mean, Roll20 definitely is the big heavy hitter for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put an article from Start Playing in the links of the show too. And there's like, I didn't realize there were so many, but there's got to be like 25 of them in this list. And in the article, they talk about the pros and cons, or like the reasons you might want to use this particular VTT over another. So I'll have that there. It
Interesting.
highlights whether they're free or not. It highlights whether they have integration with like a marketplace or not, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so yeah,
Huh.
thanks so much, Johnny, for being here to talk about VTTs. It's definitely a blind spot of mine, so I'm really happy to have somebody who knows so much about it. If people
Yeah.
listening to the show wanted to come find you in all of your endeavors, where could they do that, and what kind of stuff do you got brewing that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. I'm very open about what I do. Let's see. I have Ravenloft Misfits, which is my Monday night campaign. We usually do Monday nights, but life. Um, we are on episode 85, I think. Level 13, going into the final act of this story. Strahd just battled with them, almost killed two of them. It was wild. Yeah, it was a wild time. Um, they ended up having to do a really risky move, and it seems like it paid off. Anyways, that's a really great campaign. I've had so much fun. All I can say is if you're starting it, don't get don't get too close to the characters, because
That's
this is
funny.
Curse of Strahd after all. Um, let's see what else. I have the Candela one shot that I published. It's only $3 on Drive-Thru RPG. It's called The Bleeding Edge. It's really great. We did a lot of work into it. It's a beautiful piece. We have really cool handouts, and we use the ancient Halen that was found in the book
Awesome.
on this adventure, and it's really cool. There's like a whole decoding of what that is, and there's like a puzzle in it. Super awesome. Um outside of that, I'm going to be playing Candela a couple times on Northwolf 911's Twitch page, and a couple other stuff. There's too much stuff, really. And then Castleton. Oh my god, Castleton. Holy wow, this is going to be amazing. This is huge. There's already 150 people in this Discord. It's going to be insane. It's going to be absolutely insane, but that's going to be more like mid-May. So look for that. But yeah, just find me
Cool.
on Twitch, Twitter, nope, not Twitter, Threads, TikTok, all that, all the T names, at TalkingXP. That's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I definitely recommend that folks go check out all of Johnny's stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff, like he was saying. I think these like quick how-to advice things that definitely always beneficial for people to go find that stuff too. So yeah, it'll all be in the show notes. And if you wanted to reach out to me, you guys already know how to do that. That's at roll_play_chat on all socials. And if you don't want to be limited to a character limit, you can always email me at contact_roleplaychat@gmail.com. Thanks so much, Johnny, for being here to talk about VTTs. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Cheers. Let's call it a chat. And lastly, if you wanted to support the show, there's a number of ways you can do that with or without spending money. You could support the show for free by spreading the word with your friends, sharing links about the show, and following me on socials. That's at roll_play_chat on all socials. Or you can support the show financially by purchasing things with my affiliate links that you can find in the show notes of today's episode or all other episodes of the show. Or you can sign up to the Patreon, where you get access to shoutouts, as well as extended episodes, about 15-20 minutes of episodes that are only for Patreon subscribers. So thanks so much for listening, and hope you all have a great one. Cheers now.